This is Maureen on the Buying Space channel. Today I'm continuing my series on Revelation in the New Testament. We are on chapter 12, starting in verse 1. And there appeared a great wonder in the heaven, and a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, traveling in birth and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in the heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. And the tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them down to earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was already to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with the rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. And there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought against his angels, and prevaileth not, neither was there a place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, the old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now is come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our God, the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God night and day. And there overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, by the word of their testimony, that they love not their lives unto the death. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down to you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, he persecuted the women who brought forth the man-child. And the women were given 2 wings and a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time, and the times, and half a time, from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman. The earth opened her mouth, and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which kept the commandments of God, and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Wow. We find such imagery in Revelations. When I think about this woman that stood on the moon, had the moon under her feet, and she had a crown with 12 jewels. And she was pregnant and gave birth. What about the 12 tribes of Israel. Jesus Christ was a Jew. He was born out of the 12 tribes of Israel, of Judea. Could this be imagery of Christ's birth? We all think of Revelations as all future events. But what if this is recounting and reminding us of the birth of Christ? And what about the birth of Christ? What happened when Jesus was born? What did the dragon do? Could the 7 heads be the civilizations at the time? Babylonia, Syria. I don't know exactly the names, but the imagery of 10 and 7 and 10 could be related more to the past. When I was younger, I was taught that the 10 horns, or if there were 10 heads or whatever, that was related to NATO. Well, NATO right now has 22 countries involved, so that no longer applies. Somebody was grasping at straws to relate it to the prophecy. But I believe this is the telling of the birth of Christ, which is appropriate because it's Christmas time. It's the Christmas season. I'll talk later about the exact Christmas time, but right now we are celebrating Christmas, and the dragon that came against Jesus and Mary and Joseph and all of Israel. See, they're having this woman represent the number 12. Jesus was born out of Israel. Was King Herod, or Satan using King Herod, because King Herod destroyed all of the male children because of the prophecy that there was going to be a Messiah. The Maccabees, this week is Hanukkah, had told the prophecy of Jesus coming. So I think this passage is related more to the past and the birth of Christ, because the war in heaven happened in the past. Satan was cast out of heaven in the past. And where it says 1/3 of the stars were swiped by his tail, I think that was angels instead of stars. There have been other references to angels being stars in previous passages of the Bible. So I think this war in heaven happened when Christ was born. That's my interpretation of the passage. Of course, it's Revelation. There are many, many interpretations of Revelation. And I tried not to get into any of the political ones, but we can see that in this passage, with my interpretation, it's completely biblical. And it's not involving any current politics. I don't like the politics that have every 4 years the name of the Antichrist changes to whoever's in charge. Because it's just become silly, At one point in time, they were saying, Reagan was the Antichrist, or Jimmy Carter. I mean, every year, back through every change of president, people would come out with predictions that it was President of the United States. It was the Antichrist if they were of the opposing political party, and it's gotten tiring. no one really knows. But I look at this passage and I see this woman who was protected by the earth, who was protected by God, and whose child went to heaven to be with God. I see this as a vision of the past. Of course, sometimes the past and the present parallel each other. But that's my interpretation of the past. That the dragon was, it says right in the Bible it was Satan. That Herod was used by Satan. So, and she being with child cried, traveling in birth and pain to be delivered. They were traveling to pay their taxes. She was about to give birth. She was desperate for shelter and they could find none. I think this absolutely parallels the story of Jesus Christ's birth and the troubled times because of Herod that were occurring. If you have a different opinion, if you see my parallel and think it's interesting, or you would like to add to this what you think this passage is about, and if you think it's about future events, that's fine too. But I see the birth of Christ in these passages. Maybe it's because it's Christmas time. Maybe because I don't want to deal with politics at all. So, leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Have a wonderful and blessed day, everyone.